have a
This
quorum.
conference will
Thank you so
now be
much.
recorded.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we are unable to hear you. Sorry, Mr. Chair, we are unable to hear you at the moment.
How's that? Better? Can you hear me now? Okay, good. All
Yeah, we
right.
can
Well,
hear you.
welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Going into regular business, we'll go to the approval of the agenda.
David
Anybody?
Dennis, move to approve.
Okay. I got a motion for and I'll second it. So David and Dan will approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Approval of the January. Not real sure where that came from, but anyway, approval of the minutes of January 12th.
So moved. This is Troy.
That's right. Okay.
Second, David.
Second by David. Dennis, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Committee directors report. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, good afternoon. Let me share my screen real quick. This afternoon, there are three items that I'd like to report to you: committees, notice of funding opportunity, and local matching funding needs. Last month, January, TPB meeting, staff shared the schedule for long-range transportation plan and transportation improvement program. I would like to take that opportunity to share with you that the framework of most of the actions and tasks that TPB meetings take place. For example, the primary products that MPOs develop are Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The Transportation Improvement Program is simply the implementation of the long-range transportation plan. Transportation Improvement Program is where the project's funding commitments are enlisted. The reason I wanted to share this with you was the new members would be beneficial, and also for all of us to be on one page with respect to context. Oftentimes, the actions and tasks were discussed during the TPB meetings, but where do they fit in? What is the context? How does this fit in the purpose and functions of the MPOs? So for that purpose, to provide the clarity of purpose, I would like to share with you the long-range Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Transportation Improvement Program, and then UPWP. The Unified Planning Work Program simply documents how the staff plans to accomplish these plan developments, whether it is long-range transportation plan or the implementation, the short-range transportation plan, which is transportation improvement program. So the reason these three we can keep in mind are one example of today's committee meetings that are upcoming. The active transportation committee that's occurring in March. This main active transportation committee we just had. Regional Freight Committee in March 31, the Active Transportation Committee in March 2nd, Safety and Health Committee in May 19th. This example, where does all these committee meetings fit in, is these committees develop a technical appendix document for Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So it becomes easier to refer what are these committees doing, what are the action items that are taking place in TPB meetings. So for that purposes, this is a good framework to share with you so that the discussions in the future can be referred, since most of the items and discussions fall into one of these three items. If it falls outside of these three, it is easy to refer that as well. And another example is we have just received a notice of funding opportunity. So WAMPO received apportionment of Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, the funds, which is about $3,789,097. These funds are available for obligation until September 30, 2024. Again, whenever the funding becomes available, whenever the funding is implemented in a short time span, like in the next 4 years or so, this again fits into the TIP Transportation Improvement Program. This can be utilized as usual, the projects that are already programmed in long-range transportation plan that are implemented in Transportation Improvement Program. So that's one example. And the third example is today we have an action item on local funding matching. The local funding matching discussions that occurred in the last meeting, whether it is 3% tip fees or 5% tip fees, those discussions occurred in the last meeting, and we are following up, in this meeting in the month of February about the tip percentage. And where does that action fall in place? That falls in place with UPWP program, because the consolidated plan grant amount, the federal grant that flows through WAMPO, supports the planning functions and tasks of the MPO. So the local match of 20% with the 80% federal funds, that discussion of tip fees fall under UPWP. So that's it. I wanted to share with you for the benefit of all, the context of where most of the actions take place, how they can be referred, and things like that. So I'm happy to provide any, if you have any questions, happy to clarify. And we also have Kdot team members if there are any questions on funding opportunity as well. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any question for Chad?
Okay.
All right, then. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do you have any, do you want to pull any of those out for discussion, or are we good with it?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as planned.
Okay, I missed all that, so.
I would like to raise a question about the 2019 audit, unless you're going to discuss about this later on, but I went through that audit that was put in the packet. And there are several findings in there that are repeat audit findings. And that's a concern. I realize it's a small organization, had a lot of personnel changes recently. But I have to understand, what are we doing to correct those findings? Just to give you a little background, I do audits all the time. They're not financial audits, but they do audits. I completed one yesterday. I'll be doing one later in the week. And we have these kind of situations. These are major findings. These are not minor things to ignore. So I want to understand what it is that we're doing to correct these issues to get this under control, so we don't have them again.
All right, we'll move the audit under new business for item D, and then we'll just go ahead and take up TIP Amendment 2 and revise UPWP Amendment number 1 for the consent agenda. Okay, with that, I'd entertain. to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Do I get a second? Wow, not sure what that is. Anyway, okay, do I have a second?
I'll
Troy
second.
Tabor,
Pardon me, John, was that you or Troy?
Troy.
I believe it was Troy Tabor that seconded.
Okay, thank you. We had a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with item 1 and 3. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, public comment. Anybody from the public like to address the board? Okay. New business action item, election of officer.
Chair,
Pardon
Mr. Chair, there is someone who wants to speak on public agenda. She's waving her arms.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Hi,
Thank you
Jane.
so much. Hello. I have just become aware of the Reimagine 2040 result of the 72 surveys and 2,663 folks who input into those surveys between 2017 and 2019. I've just become aware of it, although it's dated June 2020, last June. I can put this link into the chat, but the way I read it is in Appendix 2, page 23, only 9.8% of those 2,664 folks who inputted into those 72 surveys wanted more roads. That's the way I read it. I ask you all to please reread that extensive, careful, thorough survey and report. I hope you will consider seriously the input of those 2,663 people about the desire, the need for more roads or more other transportation facilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate your input. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, moving on. Item A is the election of officers for the 21-22 year or 21 year. Generally, vice chair traditionally moved up to the chair position, which is David Dennis, and then the vice chair is pretty much anybody. I've had one person that's expressed an interest in it. That would be Troy Tabor. So those are the only two that I have. So I guess I would nominate David Dennis to be chair for the 21 year.
I second that. This is Tom.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. All those in favor, aye. Or is there, excuse me, before we do that, is there any additional? If not, okay. All those in favor, aye. Where all that background noise is coming from, but
That was David.
yeah, it's this excitement coming through. Yeah. With that, David, I will turn it over to you and let you take up the vice chair and then carry on with the meeting. Thank you. Thanks for your support the last 2 years. I appreciate it, and stick around to help all we can. Thank you.
Well done, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I sincerely appreciate your work during the past couple of years. We've had a couple rough times with several big issues that we worked through your leadership. And I want to personally thank you very much for your leadership during those times. And most notably, we now have a permanent director of WAMPO, thanks to your leadership on moving us forward there. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed doing it.
Does anyone else want to say anything about Dan before we move on to the next?
Thank you, Dan.
Very
have a
good.
question,
Uh,
David.
That noise isn't me. I just wanted to thank Dan for his able leadership. Thank you.
Thank Jane,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay,
You know, I
next
have a
item
question.
we'll take.
Troy has been
Yes.
nominated by Dan. If he takes that over, then
Yes.
that would leave an opening in the TAC.
Well,
So,
you know,
typically-
traditionally, I'm going to, excuse me for just a minute.
okay,
Up until when Pete was vice chair, and he didn't have time to do vice chair and TAC, it was always one position, and then we split it at that time. I don't know if it's not by, and I'm not sure when we elect a TAC chair.
the way it was, it changed a couple years ago and they were separated. And the TAC usually is in March, I believe,
Okay.
after the elections in February.
So,
I don't know why, but it was set up that way.
yeah. So it's,
So, you know, in the past, it was a dual job. I don't know if we want to continue that or not.
well, maybe Troy doesn't want to do both either. So,
I'm actually fine with it. I feel like we're making great progress in TAC at this point, unless the board would want to keep it split. But based on the volume of work, I don't think it's a problem to just to rejoin them to the way they were before.
well, I would hate to see you come off attack because you are right in the middle of several issues. So that's just the way it was. I don't know if it needs to change back or be separate. If it is separate, then I'm going to withdraw my nomination. So, but I think no, because I think it's very important that that continuity in the TAC, because we have just started some major projects that you've initiated and got them guys going on. So it's kind of what the board wants to do. But like I said, traditionally up until like 3 years ago, it was all one position. So
But
And like I said, I have no problem making it one again. Kind of makes sense, actually.
Very good. Well, we have one nomination for Troy.
I would
I'd like
second
to-
it.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to put Becky Tuttle in as vice chair, and I think Troy is doing a tremendous job on the TAC, and I'd like to certainly keep him on TAC running that. So I'd like to put a second name in the hat with Becky Tuttle. Do we have other nominations?
I'll move nominations be closed.
I will second that. All in favor of closing the nomination, please state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have two people running right now for the vice chair position. We've heard from Troy, he does not have a problem with working in either position. Can we find out if Becky would be interested in vice chair before we move too much further?
I'm honored to be nominated, and I appreciate your confidence and your trust, and would be considered, but proud and happy to serve on the executive committee no matter what. So thank you for nominating me. I appreciate your consideration.
You know, since we started this discussion, I don't have a problem just leaving Troy unless it doesn't hurt to have different folks in those leadership positions. So doesn't matter. I mean, we got two great people that would do a good job. So And they're both going to be remaining on the executive board because of their spots. So anyway.
Okay, well, on this remote meeting, I'm not quite sure how to count votes. Chad, do you know how we can count votes on a remote meeting?
We can type in the chat by the voting members, and then staff can make a quick count if that's okay.
Okay. Well, at this time then, I'd like to have everyone go into chat and type in who you would like to have as vice chair, and then we'll count the votes. Thank you. Does everyone have a chance to vote? Does anyone still need time to be able to type in your vote?
David, are we accepting mail-in votes? Because there's mail-in ballots that could be an issue later. I'm just kidding.
We don't have any hanging Chad in this one anyway.
Oh, goodness.
So far, if I'm mistaken, and Chad, you verify, I've got 4 votes for Troy.
True. Yeah. That is true. 11 votes for Becky total.
All right. Congratulations, Becky.
Very good. It looks like Becky Tuttle will be the new vice chair. Congratulations, Becky.
Thank
Congratulations,
you.
Becky.
Thank you. And it'll be a pleasure to work with each one of you, and I appreciate your trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the TIP amendment projects list and location. And we got Chad and Renee.
Okay. Let me share the screen real quick. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, just a quick report on the recent, let me see if I can share the screen. The TIP amendment, recent amendment on Transportation Improvement Program. Just want to share with you where are the locations of the projects that recent amendment took place, and what are the improvements that were addressed in this TIP amendment. So just a list and a location, just a quick update, what's happening in our region in the most recent amendments. So Renee is also here to talk about the Kdot projects. So I would like to start with, the first project in this list. It's in Derby, Patriot Avenue, along, let me show you the map where the exact location is. It's across the 63rd Street and K15. K15 being the corridor that serves many communities, Derby, Hayesville, Mulvane, and surrounding areas. of regional significance as well. And the second project that's in the TIP amendment is the project in Park City, 61st Street and Broadway. There's a roundabout at that location. There's also Amazon facility that's under development. So it's a regional economic driver as well. So to facilitate goods movement, some of the vehicles would need a larger turn radius because of truck movements and economic activity. So the additional lanes are proposed on this. And this location is just west of I-135. Since I-135 also connects many communities, also of regional significance as well. And then any arterials that becomes interchanges with highways would also be of importance. So these are the two projects that WAMPO suballocated funds had for the amendment. So I would like to request Renee to discuss 3 projects from the Kdot perspective. Thank you, Renee, if you are there on.
Good afternoon. The first project is this Ford Street project in Valley Center in Park City. It was an Economic Development Program award that we had. It is for roadway reconstruction with access and width improvements and the addition of a roundabout at North Seneca Street. It is located from the West 77th Street North Bridge over the Wichita Valley Center floodway east to the I-135 junction. The next project.
Thank you.
This is one of the projects that was selected under our IKE program to go into the pipeline. It's the K96 discovery phase for the upgrade from a 4-lane to a 6-lane freeway section, and it will include the evaluation of alternative delivery options. And it runs from North Hillside Street east to North Greenwich Road. And then our last project is redecking of Bridge 113 on US 54. And this is just simple bridge redecking. It's at the junction of K251 and US 54. Is there any questions about any of those?
Thanks, Renee. And just to show where all the projects are located on the recent amendments. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. Do we need to take action to approve those?
No, Mr. Chair, this was just an update of what is going on in the recent amendment. That's all. And then just want to remind you that we moved one of the consent agenda items to the main agenda on the audit. So just want to remind you.
Very good. Okay. Let's hit the last item and we'll come back to the audit. I agree. The last item is the local match, and this is the carryover from last month. We wanted everybody to have an opportunity to go back and talk to their organizations if they had any concerns over the option that we were talking about, and that's the 3% tip fees to run that for a year and see how that works. Does anyone have any objections to that? We discussed it last month, and we do need to take some action on it. I don't see any objections. With that, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the 3% tip fees for the 1-year project, and we'll review it again next year.
This is Dan, I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Dan. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I didn't hear anyone opposed. Okay, we'll go back. We did remove one item from my consent agenda, and that was the 2019 audit. The mayor out of Bel Air wants some additional information. Jim, can you go ahead and let us know what else that you might need or what we need to do to move this forward?
What I really wanted to understand is what actions we're doing to correct these deficiencies so that they're not recurring into a third year, because this is not a good situation to have. Some of these are significant issues in my mind that we need to make sure we shore up. So if there's already actions in place that are going on, I'd like a quick explanation of that, or do we need to create some internal audit procedures, or what do we need to do to help shore these up so that they don't keep recurring?
Well, you make a good point. We are very concerned about what we saw in that audit. One of the things that we heard from the auditors when they briefed us, and Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because we discussed this with the auditors at great length, but they've already started looking at next year's, and the things that they've found was that it's kind of a complete different story on how that WAMPO is working with the auditors and what we're doing between the way that we've done it in the past and the way that we're working with the auditors in the future. That's actually one of the reasons that we wanted to extend the contract for one more year with the company that's doing the audit for us. So the board was very concerned about where we were at, especially with some of the repeats. They've already seen that they've made some strides to correct those items. Dan, I don't know if you've got something else you'd like to add from the audit that we received.
Yeah, I'd be happy. And we've also, part of that dealing with the auditors is we hired a consultant to come up with several different items that will help ensure that we don't continue to repeat these. We've got staff now that is open and working diligently with the auditors and not withholding information, or not so much withholding, but not in a timely manner getting it to them. We put through Chad, put some practices in place to ensure that happens, so they get the information needed. Also, that we have the oversight required. We still use that consultant on an as-need basis to help us correct past sins, and we understood that we needed to do that. We had to talk AGH into doing another audit because they were ready to walk away because the problems weren't being addressed. They are now happy and are participants because we have put things in place to correct and to have better oversight. So we took those issues seriously also, and have implemented policies in place to see that they don't reoccur. And like I said, the consultant has been a great help, and going from there. Chad, you have anything to add?
Thank you, Dan. That is, you covered it very well. Mayor Jim, it was most of these occurred in 2019 until September. After joining, after the management changed in September 2019, there were several corrective actions that were in place. That was well recognized and noted by auditors, and auditors made a presentation in the month of December about the past occurrences of the repeats and what new management has placed the corrective actions. They have explained it very well. They also expressed the confidence in the new management, the transparency that the current staff, myself and my staff currently has. And we also have shared how we are working with Kdot team members to address, even Kdot had concerns before, so we are working closely with Kdot to ensure these corrective actions that were placed by staff are really occurring. Those are there's more transparency and there are steps taken towards improving. And these are all discussed in the month of December, Mayor. And now we forgot to take the action of receive and file in the month of December. So that's why we put this back in the consent agenda. What we forgot at the time, well, it served as a review time period though, from December till February now. So any further questions, happy to answer me.
Chairman Dennis, can I just make a quick comment?
Yes, Councilwoman.
For those, thank you. For those of us who are a little bit more tangible, one of the things that we did request from Chad and staff is that we have a written corrective action plan that the executive committee can review each time that we meet and also be able to share with Kdot. So there is an actual formal written document so that we can make sure we're staying on course. And I appreciate that, having something that, you know, I can refer back to. So there is documentation, and we've had multiple discussions about the progress that's been made. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councilwoman.
We appreciate the information and the transparency that you've provided here today. Just in my world, when I see repeat findings, I write a new finding for ineffective corrective action. And I don't know in the financial world if they do that, but I do that in my audits, and those are always major findings when that happens. So I just want to raise the awareness that we have these issues, and hopefully you've got a handle on them. And I understand the change in personnel and stuff, that's going to have an effect, and hopefully for the positive. And we will not see these repeated next year. So I look forward to that report. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We truly believe that you got some serious concerns, and we're listening to them. What I want to do is thank Dan and Chad for working with AGH and getting us back on track before we needed to be, because we had to add a one-year special contract to be able to move forward. We had to have Chad work with Kdot to get that moving. So a lot of things have been happening trying to make sure that we can correct all of those findings from that audit. And it's not a good excuse, but we kind of had temporary leadership, and now we've got permanent leadership, and that's going to make a lot of difference as we move forward. Any other questions on the audit? Seeing none, I move that we receive and file a 2019 audit.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second by Dan. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, Executive Committee. The Executive Committee has not met since the last WAMPO meeting, so I really don't have anything to report right now from the Executive Committee. Dan, did you have anything to carry over from last time?
No, I don't believe so.
Very good, thank you. We'll move on to the freight. Is Karen Page? I'll have to look and see if Karen's on. Is Karen on?
Mr. Chair, the next meeting is on March 31. That's all report at the moment.
Okay, very good. Then after freight, we'll look at safety and health. Is Elizabeth Avila on?
I think the next meeting is on May 19th, Wednesday. That's all the update for the moment. And same with the Active Transportation Committee. The next meeting is on March 2nd. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we don't have any committee reports then. We'll go ahead and move on to Wichita Metro Kdot then.
Thank you. This is Tom Hine with Kdot. And while there are a number of highway projects in the Wichita Metro that have, up to this point, remained active, this week's winter weather has postponed a lot of their chores. However, we will see the resumption of some planned activities on the I-235 Green project starting tomorrow. It's been postponed slightly, but begins again tomorrow to construct the southbound I-235 bridge over the Little Arkansas River. So that will begin tomorrow with bridge beam setting on southbound I-135 or I-235. That necessitates the closing of the southbound I-135 to southbound I-235 ramp, a pretty important ramp for the Metro. That will close each day from about 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For 2 days this week, 4 days next week, and at least 2 days the week after that. So we will see some interruption. We will have message boards up telling people to use Kellogg to the west if they're headed towards the airport, or I think that's kind of our plan, is to just send those people down to Kellogg and then westbound on Kellogg to their destination, and then they can come back up onto 235 if it's different than west of 235. If that's clear, that's amazing. Other projects will restart, I think, when weather moderates, or worst case scenario, when spring arrives. To keep up with these projects in Wichita, I publish a weekly update, and as well, the city and the Sedgwick County also on their websites have updates. If you would like to get the Kdot update weekly, just contact me, and that's available to this committee or any citizen in the area that wants to read these somewhat interesting reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Anything else? I appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item D, Kdot from Kansas.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Moriarty from Kdot. I believe you can see my screen. I was granted the authority to present for a moment today. Is that correct?
Yes, Mike, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Well, I wanted to talk about one of the very exciting things we do in transportation planning at Kdot, and that is we count cars and trucks statewide, and we use that information to create a monthly estimate of vehicle miles traveled across the state, again, on a daily basis. And I thought it would be interesting to go over what we've seen this past year in 2020 with respect to travel across Kansas in light of the pandemic that we've all been enduring since the middle or early parts of last year. So as you can see, and I apologize I didn't drop this into a friendlier table format, but as you can see, back in January, between 2019 and 2020, very similar travel characteristics, and even into February as well. We looked like we were on par with previous years, perhaps even a bit higher. As we moved into March, April, and May, though, you can see our statewide travel dropped significantly, in particular in April, and then again in May, 37% in April and about 20% in May. As we moved into June, July, and August, we start to see that number sort of trend back towards the previous year. However, as we came into this fall and winter, the number spiked up again. So for the year in 2020, we were down about 10% statewide in terms of daily travel. And we also have some count locations in Wichita, both on the state highway system and off the state highway system. And we would estimate, again, at a high level, traffic is down in Wichita about 12% across the board for 2020. So just a quick summary of what we've seen this past year. And if you ever want more information, I can assure you my traffic team is more than willing to give you more than you would ever hope to hear about traffic counts and such across the state. I did also want to touch briefly, Chad, you mentioned earlier about the Coronavirus Response and Relief Act, and you talked about the money that's been designated for the Wichita area. This is part of a broader package that was granted to the state of Kansas. So the state of Kansas did receive about $94 million worth of additional federal funding under this act. About 5.3 was directly assigned to Metro Kansas City, And again, about 3.8 was assigned to Wichita. The remaining, using round numbers, 85 was given to Kdot for transportation purposes statewide. The secretary and her team are still making some decisions on what to do with that money. At this point in time, though, about $37.5 million will be made available to the Special City County Highway Fund for KDOT to share with our local partners. And we're considering somewhere between 25 and 40 for increased highway preservation work, so our mill and overlay type projects. And then we are also considering an additional 10 to 15 million increase in funding for our local partnership program. So again, that's the preliminary thought. No decisions have been made, no projects have been selected, but that is what the secretary is currently considering for how to use those valuable funds. And I'm going to try to figure out, Chad, how to stop sharing my screen. No one told me how to get out of this. Here we go. No, that's not me.
Thanks.
I think I did it.
Thanks, Mike. Anything else to add?
That's it. I appreciate the time.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. That's all,
With
Mr. Chair.
12% reduction, does that equate to a reduction in accidents and so forth too, or are you tracking that kind of information?
So we're still trying to make sense out of some of that data. While we have seen a decrease in travel, I think we may be seeing something different in terms of crashes. So we're still trying to wrap our heads around what's going on there.
Very good. And the 12% decrease in travel, is that why they're looking at helping us out with the gas tax?
You mean with the money that was allocated for the Special City County Highway Fund?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's part of the overall thought process here. You know, we have a history at KDOT of sharing our gas tax dollars with our local partners, and this is just a continuation of that. And again, we just want to share these relief funds as much as possible, right? I mean, statewide.
Very good. Appreciate the information. I can tell you the traffic was down when I drive to work. The traffic this whole year has been a whole lot easier every single day. And I don't know how many of you have your insurance companies, but mine actually gave me a rebate for about 3 months during the summer because of the decreased traffic. It's got other benefits, I guess. Well, thank you for that. Next up is the Federal Highway Administration. Do we have any? Everybody's so little I can't pick up who's on.
Yeah, this is Matt McDonald, the financial manager in the Kansas division here. Not exactly sure what you're looking for. I can tell you right now that the COVID relief money, final policy and guidance right now is at the headquarters level and getting ready to be sent to the Secretary of Transportation for final review and approval. Once I have that, I'll get it down to the state. As you know, there's some interesting twists and turns with the language. The one thing I would say about the COVID money is it is general appropriated funds. And Chad pointed out that it expires on 30 September 2024. But the other piece that goes with that, because they're appropriated funds, once they expire, the normal de-obligation, re-obligation rules do not apply. After that date, that money is dead. There is nothing you can do with it if we haven't already obligated it. Other than that, not a whole lot other than that the planning position is out for advertisement and closes this Friday. And I'm very happy because I'm not a planner. I'm a finance guy. That's all I have.
Very good, Matt. Thanks very much for the update. Are there any other updates that I've missed today? None? Does any other business need to come before WAMPO today?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask of the 3.7 billion that WAMPO is going to be allocated out of this, are we having any discussions about what our plans are with those funds?
I had that question before the meeting started, and we'll probably discuss it next month. Is that correct, Chad?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We just got the notice of availability of the funding. We'll be discussing with our team members and what next steps are. Particularly what projects are eligible and things like that, and what more information can we obtain to share with the board by next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business need to come for WAMPO today? Seeing none, once again, I want to thank Dan for his service to our community, and tell everyone I'm honored to serve as your chairman. Thank you very much for that honor. With that, we will adjourn, and we'll talk to you next month. Thank you, everyone.